Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's series of the Michael Wright Show, and I'm yours truly, Mr. Michael Wright. And boy, do we have a show for you all here today, where I got Mr. Dennis and Karen Vinar will be coming on the show here today, which were high school sweethearts, had a baby, and went off from high school to their separate destinations and colleges. And 53 years later, they got back together. But before we keep on going here, we're going to take a break. And I'm going to let you listen into this message, and we'll be back shortly with Mr. and Mrs. Vinar.
Yeah. That's it.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. When you adopt a child from foster care, just being there makes all the difference.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Here now is Mr. and Mrs. Vinar. Dennis and Karen, how are y'all doing today?
Fine.
Just fine, Michael.
Thank
Good
you.
to be here.
Oh, it is great to have you guys here today. It's definitely, an honor just to be able to, be in y'all presence after being on the Steve Harvey show and on the different television stations and coming here to Burnsville just to give us a little bit of your time. That is awesome. So, I know I kind of broke it down for everyone out there a little bit today, and now I want you two to go ahead and let the public know how everything went. So, if I didn't get everything correct here, if I didn't missed a few things, let me know. So, high school sweethearts had a baby, put the baby up for adoption, went on to different colleges. 53 years later, got back together. That is amazing. So, Dennis, we're going to start with you first. So, tell us, how did all of this come about?
Well, this all came about on November 25th of 2014. I was at a party, and the woman hostess says, we're going to play a game. Okay, what's the game? She said that if your primary physician gave you 60 days to live, who'd be one person you would want to take out to Starbucks or someplace to have coffee or dinner. And I went around the room, and people, they were pondering between a movie star and a politician. Well, that's not important to me. It came around to me, and I said, Karen Lehman, who is she? I said, we were junior high and senior high school sweethearts. And we grew up in a small town called Brownton, Minnesota, about 60 miles west of Minneapolis on 212. And we fell in love. And when Karen was 15 and I was 17, she had a child. We put the child up for adoption, and in a small town in the late 50s and early 60s, it's a little difficult. They kind of shunned that. They didn't like that. Honey, you want to?
Well, it was definitely frowned upon to have a child out of wedlock. And in the early 1960, 61, when I found out I was pregnant, abortions were probably not readily available, nor did we even consider it. My parents didn't want to raise a child, and they thought that we were too young to raise a baby, to start a family, even though Dennis had asked me to marry him. So I was encouraged to put the baby up for adoption, which I did.
Okay, and during that adoption process, I know, so both of you two were young in your days and still in high school, correct, during that moment?
Yes, right.
And when you had to put the baby up for adoption. And being, just thinking about it, with you both probably having two promising careers going off to college, and then making big careers out of of yourselves, and then, got the baby along too. So I know during that time they kind of had to be kind of like a mixed emotion type feel, and kind of a scary thing as well, okay, what am I gonna do? I got hopes I'm going to college, but we're gonna have to raise this child, so what would kind of running through your
Well,
mind?
you're exactly right, Michael. I had plans to go on to college after high school, and I wanted to become an interior designer. I had not planned on being a mom at age 15 by all means. So I knew that this probably was the right thing to do, but to make that final decision, especially knowing that I would never see this child again at that time, it was really a difficult decision to make.
Okay, and Dennis, in high school, coming up, what were your main things as far as what you wanted to do in the college, and to look past with the child stuff on your mind, and also looking forward to what you want to do in college. So break it down. What was going through your mind during that time?
I was I focused on I wanted to be an English teacher,
Okay.
but when Karen was pregnant, we were kind of asked to leave that town, and that was mostly due to my parents. I think of the embarrassment. So I graduated from South High in Minneapolis, and but when Karen was on the unwed in the unwed mother's home in Northeast Minneapolis, there was no communication with her whatsoever. I couldn't see her, I couldn't talk to her, or anything. And but the way I found her again is on when I was at this party the following day. A friend of mine from New Orleans asked me to join him on LinkedIn, and I did. And I saw the search bar up there, mischievous I was, and I just typed in Karen Lehman. And there she was, the third person down on the left. And I stood up, I smacked my hands, and I said, "That's my lady." And I followed her. I called her the following day, on a Monday, and then I found out, as everyone knows, that in LinkedIn it's strictly a professional. So I found her, and she's working in Everett, Washington. But let's step back to when Karen was. Here's a girl. I'm going backwards down. Here's a girl, 15 years old.
Okay.
She just had a child, and she named the baby after me. She named the baby Denise Deanne. And she called me, and that's the second time I got to see her in 9 months, or 6 months, I suppose.
6 months probably, yes.
And then I went over there, and I got to hold the baby and Karen. And what Karen said to me was, she said, to hold us tight, because this will be the last time you ever hold your child, or our baby, I think you said. And that was tough, because after that I didn't see her again for. When I graduated from high school, I went into the military.
Okay.
I was stationed over in Germany, and Karen, she finished high school Brown, valid Victoria of her class, by the way. And,
Gotta get that in there.
and then she went on to college, and I wanted to let her know that I was leaving the country, but I couldn't. No one would put my phone calls through to her, so I didn't. And I went over to Germany. And when I got out of the military, I looked her up. She was a junior in college, and I was. But she was about 20 years old, a junior in college, and I was just out of the military, and I was 22. I asked her to marry me again, and she said yes. Then she went home and told her dad.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, it's right.
Oh, you like your ta-ta-ta.
Yeah. And he says, if you marry that guy, I'm not going to pay for your senior year of college. And needless to say, she came back and told me that she wants a career. So we split up for 53 years, and that was, I might have spoke with her once in 1992. I might have, because I went through, 1984.
Okay.
I went through alcohol treatment in June 4th of 1984, and I wanted to make amends to Karen. I had to make amends, made a list of all the people that I've hurt or harmed, and I hurt her, so I called her, and I went over with her and I apologized to her, but
Well, he married someone else in the meantime and had 3 children, and eventually I did too. I had a son.
Okay.
Quite a number of years later, but at least we lived separate lives, each had separate families. But in 2010, my first husband passed away.
Oh, sorry.
I was still living in Washington, the state of Washington,
Okay.
and I got a call from him at work one day. Well, first of all, he called the receptionist, and I was at a different store. So the receptionist sent me a text saying that an old friend, Denny, with an area code of 612, blah, 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 called. And I
Oh,
thought,
man.
man, I haven't heard, if that's the same Denny I'm thinking about, I haven't heard from him in 50 years probably.
Oh, wow.
So I was really shocked, but the first thing that went through my mind was that our daughter had gotten in touch with him, or vice versa. Maybe he had gotten in touch with her, and I was really curious about what had transpired to prompt this call. So I called him right back, and I said, "How did you find me?" And that's the name of our book. But but it was quite a shock, and I found out
Amazing.
found out that he was divorced. You may want to tell about our trying to figure out our marital status.
yeah, she after she came to the phone, I told her that she could call me after 8 o'clock on a Monday night, or 8:15, because I go to my meetings, and then I came home and she called me. So we did the small talk. She called me at 8:30, and we did the small talk and everything and all that stuff. And then I said, let's cut to the chase here. What is your marital status? I said, I will not get between a husband and wife. So she said that her husband died in 2010, and I told her that I was divorced for many years, for 15, 16 years. And then we did some small talk yet, and then finally I said, wait a minute, if you're single, and if I'm single, where'd I fly into? She said, Seattle. I said, I'll be out tomorrow morning, the first thing, unless if I can get a flight out tonight. I'm coming out tonight. And she said, no, you can't do that. She said, we have to get reacquainted. I said, reacquainted? We had a child already. We're pretty acquainted. But so she made me wait for another 3 months.
I called it an electronic courtship because we texted and emailed and talked on the phone every night, and it was January 20th before we saw each other again after 50 years.
Okay, so Dennis, on that day or night, what time it was that you called her 50 years later, so what was going through your mind when you picked up that phone call her job and, to speak to the receptionist to start looking for Karen?
Well, I just the receptionist says I asked the receptionist first when she picked up the phone. I said, just coincidentally, would you happen to have an employee there named Karen Lehman? She says, yes. I said, well, let me talk to her. She says, well, I can't. I said, yes, you can. All you gotta do is press a button. And she said, no. She said, I can't do that. I said, just tell her an old friend of 50 years called. You got my my number on your monitor, and my name was Denny. And that's when she called me 10 minutes later. And it was just, what was going through her mind is that when I found out that she was single, and I was single, I really wanted to see her and meet her. And so we started talking, and then she said, we started from November 25th. Then we started talking about every 2-3 times a day, and every night we talked for an hour or 2 hours, in fact, some nights. And then we came of marriage after November, December. Marriage started to come in.
Just
And
general conversation about marriage.
general conversation. And then she said, "Would you ever ask me to marry you?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'll never ask you to marry me again." She said, "Why is that?" I said, "Well, asking you to marry me is like baseball. 3 strikes and you're out." And she says, "Oh, I have a different take on that. I say that 3 times a charm." And I said, "Oh, you darn women." And we got together, and then I told her in January that I'd take the West Coast swing every January. And what's the West Coast swing? She said, "Well, I fly from Minneapolis to Santa Monica or to LA, see my daughter and grandson, then I fly up to Portland." And she said, "When do you leave Portland?" I said, "Well, I leave Portland when my son says, Dad, when's your next flight? Then it's time to leave." That's a hint.
Oh, yeah.
So then she said, "Why don't you come up on January 20th of 2015? So I did. And we saw each other at 8:34 p.m. She gets out of her Lexus, runs around the car, jumps on me, and I just whispered in her ear. I said, "Baby, you're home." And we had a wonderful. Then we got married 36 hours later.
Oh, wow. Man, I just went to the courthouse, filed a certificate, and bam, it was done.
Well, we had actually done that prior to his visit
We had to.
because
Denny, you already got everything set up way before you even flew into Washington.
exactly,
right?
yes. Well, we thought we had to get the license. How far in advance?
3 days.
3 days in advance of when we wanted to get married, but it was good for 60 days. So we figured, well, if we got the license and we saw each other and it didn't work out, that we didn't really want to get married after all, we could either wait and think about it for 60 days, or we were just out the fee that we paid to get the license. So he was back in Minnesota by this time, and I was still in Washington, so he downloaded the marriage application for Washington State, signed it and had it notarized, sent it to me. I took it to the courthouse, so everything was in progress already before he got there.
Oh yeah, and based on just hearing you two talk right now, it seemed like after the adoption, that when you put your daughter up for adoption, even when y'all did go to separate directions, it seemed like that love and that fire for each other was still just burning. Even though Dennis was in Germany and you were off in a school, y'all still had the connection where y'all stayed, together, in contact. And also during that little bit of time, how Dennis kept asking to marry, and you went to the daddy, you say, like, nah, you want to finish this senior year, you better rethink that, sister. So,
Well, we really didn't have any contact with each other after he left to go to Germany,
Okay.
or actually after our daughter was born, because
Couldn't.
my parents did not allow me to take his phone calls, or if he said he sent me letters, but I never got that
it.
mail. That was intercepted by someone in my family, probably. So
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that he had tried to get in contact with me.
Well, yeah, Denny, your letters definitely went bye-bye, I guess, as soon as they hit that mailbox. And he just
Except
went
the
out.
money.
Oh, wow. And the money.
Yeah, I paid my second 8 weeks of training in the military. I got called down on a Saturday morning. Now I'm just a rookie in the Army, and what was the CO wanting to see me for? His name was Captain Spangler, and I went in there and and he looked at me and he said, "Private Vinar?" He said, "Back in Minnesota, you had a child out of wedlock." I said, "Yes, sir, I did." "Well," he said, "you're going to pay $50 a month for the rest of your time in the service." And I said, "Captain, sir, I only make $78 a month." He said, "I don't care what you make. You're paying $50 a month." And he said, "You get 3 squares a day and you got a place to sleep." So he said, you could go penny. I don't care. You're paying the $50 a month. I said, okay. And I did. And there's a strange part about it that we found this out in a strange way. We met Karen's sister and brother-in-law in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a couple of years ago. And she said, Karen's sister's 7 years younger than she is. And she told Karen that she always wondered what this letter was every month. She would go down to the mailbox and get the letter, and there was a letter from Private Vinar.
But addressed to my dad, our dad.
Yeah, Dad. And there was the money that I had to send him. But
So I didn't know about that at the time. I just found it out many years later after we were already married.
yeah,
But getting back to that day when we did get married in Washington, it was just a civil ceremony at the courthouse. But the people that I had been working with didn't know that I was seeing anybody or communicating with Dennis at all these months. So
they had to be in shock. In other words,
exactly.
So like,
They
you
were
were like, hey,
really
I'm married. What? Like, girl, what? Karen, you didn't tell us about him.
Exactly,
Get
that's
married.
basically what they said. But after we told the story about how we reunited after 53 years, the receptionist who had originally taken his call said, "Oh, that's such a sweet story. You've got to write a book." And she considered herself sort of a amateur writer of sorts, so she wanted to write an article, a human interest story for the local newspaper, the Everett Daily Herald. Would it be all right with us? And we gave her approval to do that, and within minutes of her emailing the story that she wrote, the columnist called and said, "I want to meet these people. Where can I interview them?" So that was a story that was published about us in 2015, the Valentine's Day newspaper, Sunday newspaper.
That's amazing.
So that was kind of exciting to have our picture and our story printed in the newspaper.
but if you believe in miracles, which we do, on May 31st of 2016, we went to Lutheran Social Services, walked up the flight of stairs, and as we opened the door, there was the lady from Lutheran Social Services and our adopted daughter and her husband. Then our daughter, her name was changed. Karen named her Denise Deanne, but her adopted parents named her Jean Marie. And she said, "I finally look like someone." And now we're very good friends. In fact, they're co-authors on the book. And it was a wonderful relationship that's happening, and that's
Yeah, through her, all of her life practically, she never felt like she looked like anybody. But the resemblance to her biological father and her was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely amazing. You know how everything just transpired, how you went up those flights of stairs, and something that you probably weren't even looking, either one of you, looking forward to walking those flights of stairs and get to that top and just to be able to see your daughter. I know your thoughts during that time, and your heart was just probably just dropped like, oh my gosh, I finally have my daughter. The one that I didn't think that I held for that last time. You didn't think that you were going to be able to see her ever again.
Never.
But out of this, this miracle came about. You went up them flights of stairs, got to that top. You seen her there. Dennis, I know you probably was the happiest man alive. Once you seen
a lot of tears.
Everyone was in tears, but that day was really special. Not only did we gain our daughter, but we gained 3 more grandchildren, and we became great-grandparents of 5 great-grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
So it was instant family, multi-generational family.
Oh, yes. And then you got a story that you can be able to break down and just tell them. And not only that, you also are probably inspiration to a lot of people that are going through relationships, like to just kind of hold on. If you got that fire burning inside, that love, to kind of just keep that going. Because if you got that connection, regardless of, what comes about, nothing can ever tear you guys away completely. Even though you went to different relationships, but guess what? Y'all still got back to each other where the root first started at, and that love continued to burn to this day. So that's definitely a motivation for a lot of the younger people out there. I know and then they can also come to y'all for advice. Okay, how did you do it? Like how did this love burn, and how do you do it right now? To keep the fire going alive. You both definitely look happy. Just to have each other in each other's presence there. So.
Well, the way
Well-
we keep it alive now, is that we have music throughout our whole home, and we play back to the 50 music, and we dance in the kitchen, and we read to each other at night. We say our daily devotions in the morning, and we're just very good friends. We're very comfortable in the presence of each other.
As a matter of fact, we tell each other a number of times how it doesn't feel like we've only been married for 4.5 years. It feels like we've been married this whole period of time, from back in the 60s to the present. It doesn't seem like that time has elapsed like it has.
And I switched my saying to Karen. We used to say, "I love you." Well, so we switched that around and we say to each other, "I'm in love with you." There's a big difference if you stop and you think about it. You're saying "I love you," and then you don't say that. We don't say that anymore. I say that I'm in love with you, and that to me is powerful.
Yeah, because love, you're supposed to love everyone. So
Yeah.
and gentlemen, back here live on the Michael Wright Show. Now, we're going to get ready to go ahead into our final closing with Mr. Dennis and Karen. So, Dennis and Karen, what is some advice, starting with Dennis, that you can give the young men out there that's looking for their queen, just like you found Karen here?
The first thing, if you find yourself in the situation I got myself up, be man enough and to accept it, and don't run. Don't run. Help her and be with her. And you live each moment with, we live each moment day by day, and or moment by moment, I guess. And you tell her, you know, Michael, just we took when we were 16. I suppose Karen was 16, and no, I was not. I was gone by the time I was 18. I was in the military. But when we were 15, and when Karen was 15 and I was 17, we talked about the 18-inch journey, and people think, what's that? And the 18-inch journey is from your head to your heart. What's up here sometimes is garbage. What's here, you can listen. And you listen and you follow your heart. And if you do, you're going to find her. I can tell you stories where I would get in the car and I would 50 miles from Brownton or 60 miles, and I wanted to, when I was lonely and divorced, and I would just jump in a car and I'd 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night and drive out to Brown and drive around the school and around Karen's house. Why? Maybe it was a little sort of insanity, but I just wanted to remind myself that, not to remind myself, but to bring back. Maybe I was trying to live in the past and
Bring back memories,
and
the
bring back
good memories.
very good memories, because we'd go to high school dances after I was a jock, football and baseball and basketball. And we would go after that, after the baseball games and football games, especially, and basketball games. I would get off the bus and we would go and dancing and up to the hotel at the malt shop, and we were just with each other all the time. That was beautiful. The football coach, in fact, he got mad at me so much, but he played me because I was the fastest guy on the team. Because every night after school, I'd walk Karen home. She lived 2 blocks from school, and I carried her clarinet. And she was in band, and I was in football, and like I said, a jock. But
So you talking about basketball? You about to get into my area now. You really about to get in my area. We about to get here and talk sports. Like just.
yeah.
All right.
I saw you dribble at the state fair with that kid that got off the bus that night. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh yeah. I kind of work on my skills a little bit. I don't let everybody see all that. You know, got a little something.
But you're very good at it.
Thank you. And Miss Karen, what do you have to say to those young women out there that's looking for their king, to make sure they kind of stay on that straight and narrow, don't just fall for anything, but just make sure that they, get that right one that they actually looking for?
Well, never give up and stay focused on your goal, what you want out of life. If it's a particular person or a particular type of person, positive thinking is what gets you where you want to be.
Okay.
And believe in miracles. That's my motto right now.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a miracle here. You guys coming back together.
This was a divine intervention. So I think there's miracles out there for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Above our
Just have faith.
Oh yeah.
And tell them about the model above our door going out in the garage.
There is a plaque about 15 or so inches wide and 3 inches high that says "Believe in Miracles." Dennis had that above his garage door leading out into the garage for many years, and he would think about that as his affirmation every time he went to get in his car. We still have it. Even though we've moved to Northfield now, we still have it above that door leading out to the garage.
Oh yeah.
Believe in miracles.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Positive thinking.
Oh yes. And if y'all out there haven't got anything out of our current relationships, anything, let this be a prime example that love still exists. And these two right here display to everyone here today, not only here, but the Steve Harvey Show and different other platforms. The love that they have, the love that was burning on the inside, kept them going, kept them after, even though they went to different various, relationships, the love that they have for each other brought them back together. And once you got it in the heart, you're going to know if you got that right person. And the key thing that we see a lot going on right now is, a lot of people say they love someone, but then they kind of they don't display it. Love is an action, not only just talk it, but you also got to display the love that you have for your companion that you're going to have with you. So, a lot of times in this day and time, a lot of people get away from that. Don't just do it with talk, but do it with action. Mr. Dennis here, he went all the way across all the way from Germany, all the way back, all the way to Washington. That shows the love that you got to display when you actually really looking for that right woman. And I'd just like to congratulate you two here today.
Thank you.
You definitely an inspiration, not only for those watching, but even myself. The love that y'all have for each other. That kind of gives me the that little fire. Okay, you know what? I might have to go in and step on up and put a little some over my door anyway as well as I walk through that, lean down to the ground. I'm like, oh yeah, it's about to go down. But thank you again. And I know all of you viewers out there, we want to thank you. Remember, how did you find me after all of these years? This book right here is in stores, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, libraries, different other outlets. Make sure you check it out. Read it from start to finish. Mm-hmm. It may be able to help you on your, your relationship path that you're going on. And, some tools before you make different decisions or anything like that. It'll teach you how to talk it over like these two talk things over and make those decisions and keep on moving.
Good communication is very important in any relationship.
Yeah.
All right. And in our closing, do you two like to say final remarks and then before we get out of here?
We're very fortunate to have found our daughter. She's a first-class lady and a first-class person. From the inside and the outside, because beauty is not what you do. Beauty isn't what you say, it's what you do. And she's got beauty inside and out, and so does her husband, as our son-in-law. Beauty is what beauty does. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you. And we've been around all over. One other thing, RTL televisions over in Germany and Switzerland, Austria and Serbia and Belgium. They flew a producer and a cameraman over to our house in Northfield for 8.5 hours. And we took them around Northfield, and we brought them down to our printing place by all means. And graphics, we brought them down there, and they were very impressed with that. So anyway, hon, got anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. And there you have it. We hope that you definitely enjoyed yourself here today. Dennis and Karen, as they just got through spreading this great knowledge for us all, letting us know that hope is still alive, that love exists. We just have to have it in our heart. We have to go ahead and go out there and get it. But I'm Michael Wright, and we'd like to thank you for tuning in to today's show. The next show, we're going to kind of steer away to a little bit of the sports side of things. Oh, yeah. We're going to go ahead and steer to the sports world on the 3rd edition of the Michael Wright Show. But until then, we're signing out, and thank you for tuning in today.